Hello, welcome everyone to another beautiful day with Swaru. And we have Dr. Dikshita with us to talk about the rising health anxiety in 2021 and the Ayurvedic ways to tackle it. Welcome, Doctor. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Rachna?
I'm good too. Thank you. So let's start, okay? Doctor, right now, the health anxiety is at an all-time high due to the pandemic, and the number of people experiencing this condition are climbing steadily. So could you tell us more about the state of mental health in general, and then we can go into more detail about that?
When we talk about health in general in Ayurveda, it includes both manas and sharira, which means the mind and the body. A person is considered to be swastha or healthy if all his doshas, dhatus, agni, mala, indriya, atma, and manas are in a state of balance. Now, when I talk about manas, it has three gunas, which are sattva, rajas, and tamas. So these are present in everyone in varying proportions. And these gunas are what lead to certain different attributes of the mind and enables us to function. So when these gunas, they tend to get imbalanced, it might lead to disorders of the mind, and health anxiety could be one.
Okay. It's really good that you spoke about the manogunas. So most people know about Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and those are the doshas of the body, meaning they're physical. But Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas are gunas of the mind. So could you describe the three gunas and how they affect the mind?
Like I told you, the three gunas lead to certain attributes of the mind. For example, sattva leads to calmness, clarity, righteousness, whereas rajoguna causes activity, aggression, impulses. Now, tamas makes you feel sluggish, lazy, ignorant, and it leads to procrastination. So, rajas and tamas has the tendency to get vitiated, which may cause certain ill effects.
So like you said, the three gunas need to be in a state of balance. So as a doctor, what do you think are the factors that create an imbalance in the gunas?
The imbalance of manodoshas or gunas could occur due to ahara, vihara, nidra, and so on. So when I start off talking about ahara, increased intake of rajasika, tamasika ahara could definitely, increase the rajas and tamas. For example, if you have foods which are processed, highly refined, fried, refried, spicy, overcooked, or you take a lot of spicy food, a lot of meat, it's definitely bound to increase your rajas and tamas. So you should always prefer foods which are easily cooked and easy to digest. For example, fresh fruits, vegetables, milk, nuts, seeds, whole grains. So you should always make sure that you should consume food which is beneficial to you rather than what is convenient for you.
Yeah.
Now moving on to vihara. Vihara normally means activity. But here I'm not referring to the physical actions, but the normal activities of the mind. For example, thought process, analysis, reasoning, concentration. So when these normal activities of the mind are not utilized, whether there's an overutilization or the underutilization, so that also leads to certain imbalances. For example, this is what we call as atiyoga and ayoga. Atiyoga is overutilization, like excessive thinking, excessive analysis, overbearing thoughts. So these are atiyoga. And whereas ayoga is underutilization, for example, not reading enough, not indulging in knowledge, not learning. So this, you're not using your full potential, and this is ayoga.
Does that mean that sleep also plays a huge role in the balance of the manogunas?
Definitely. When you see the early morning time, it's abundant in sattva energy. So it's good to wake up early in the morning and start your day. But if you stay up late at night and you keep working, so that will definitely increase your rajas and tamas.
Okay. And we had spoken about the ideal sleep routine in our previous podcast. It will actually help a lot of people who have disturbed sleep or even trouble falling asleep. So those of you who are listening to this, please go and listen to the other podcast, which talks about sleep in detail. Also, now coming back to this, so now a lot of people watch a lot of news and the internet, and now we only hear about the pandemic. So we can be pretty sure that it aggravates the anxiety in people because it's very disturbing, the news that we see every day. What do you think about that?
Like I said, this could also be considered an overstimulation of the mind. And you should definitely start cutting back on the media overdose. So in the last podcast, I was telling you about the Adharaniya Vegas, the urges that you're not supposed to suppress. But here, I would like to talk about the Dharana Vegas. So these are certain emotions that you are supposed to control. For example, greed, grief, or desire, delusions, ego. So all these are not very good emotions, they're negative emotions. So it's good to cut back on that as well.
We shouldn't suppress natural urges. And this could be contributing factors for anxiety as well, like improper lifestyle, bad food habits, and poor sleep, right?
Yes, so all of these are interconnected.
Okay, so as a disease, what is anxiety called in Ayurveda?
Anxiety can be correlated to chittodvega, and this occurs due to an imbalance of doshas. You could have an increased vata dosha, or your rajas and tamas also could be increased. So there's another concept called guru and lagu vyadita.
Mhm.
Now, this describes two kinds of people. When we talk
Okay.
about Guru Vyadita, they are people who tend to downplay their symptoms. They're strong enough to withstand the disorder and the treatment given for it. But when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about Laghu Vyadita, these are people who tend to get affected by minor symptoms and aren't usually able to withstand the treatments or the disease itself.
All right.
So we can say that people who are Laghu Vyadita can be prone to health anxiety or are the ones who usually have health anxiety, because health anxiety is nothing but a disorder, and it is characterized by an irrational fear of a physical symptom that could manifest into something fatal. It's basically an exaggeration of something that's already there.
So, could you tell us about, how a common man know that he or she is having anxiety?
Since it's a disorder, they have a certain behaviors that they exhibit. For example, they constantly worry about their health and they keep checking if they have any new symptoms. It could be a
Okay.
small itch or a bump or a rash, but they're always on the lookout for new symptoms. And they tend to undergo several medical tests, but they usually aren't very satisfied with it. And they go to different doctors for multiple opinions. Usually, when we aren't satisfied with the first one, we go to a second doctor for another opinion. But
Yeah.
here, they might go to a third, fourth, fifth. And they continue to read from the internet to research every symptom that they have. They constantly tend to need reassurances from people and from doctors regarding their health. And one thing, the constant worrying or thinking about their condition also may lead to certain other issues like changes in appetite or sleep or restlessness, headaches. And what happens is they end up thinking that this also could be due to some other illness. So it's a huge, vicious cycle, I would say.
I agree. So, when you say the red flags, it's best to consult with a doctor. As a doctor, so what do you think are the contributing factors to this?
Health anxiety in specific could occur due to a certain personal reason, such as a family member of yours had a misdiagnosis, or they weren't given enough importance as a child when it came to certain ailments of theirs, or they lead a very stressful work life or personal life, or they could have suffered some previous illness, or they are exposed to severe pressure, and they feel that they need to take better care of themselves. But this is not reflected in terms of being generally, aware and caring about your health. This becomes like an overdrive in their head and they keep constantly worrying. Now due to the pandemic, this usual routine of ours is disturbed. So it leads to a lot of time when you can, spend thinking. And this may lead to anxiety, maybe not health anxiety in particular, but it does play a part.
All right. So having the right balance of anxiety is the key because anxiety is a good thing too, right? Like I think it helps all of us in a certain way.
Here, I think you're talking about a certain level of awareness and alertness, which is definitely needed in all of us
All
because
right.
it tells us that there is a problem and you have to tackle it early on. It also helps us get our day-to-day work done, before deadline. So, as you said, that balance is needed, and when it goes off balance, that's when we need to
That's when it's a
step in
problem.
and do something about it. Yes, that's
Yeah.
when it's a problem.
Yeah. So Dr. Dikshita, so could you tell us when should a person understand that he actually needs to consult with a doctor regarding that?
When it helps someone get on with their day-to-day life and helps them actually achieve certain goals, okay, it is helpful in some way. But when it starts to hamper the lifestyle, when the majority of time is spent worrying about assumptions, when one person isn't able to focus on their work and it causes dysfunction in general, and it puts a strain in the interpersonal relations and makes social interaction difficult, and it also starts to affect their sleep or cause new symptoms, or this is definitely a problem and it has to be addressed.
Okay. So if the symptoms of anxiety are really bad, we have to take Ayurvedic treatment.
Yes. So in Ayurveda, we have treatment procedures which can be divided into three modalities. So the first one could be Shodhana. Shodhana involves purification of the body, and this is conducted either by inducing vomiting or purgation or enema. So this is conducted by the physician. Now, the second modality would be Shamana, and this involves treatments which are pacifying in the nature. For example, we use herbal medicines and medicated, ghee and external therapies such as Shirodhara. Now, Shirodhara involves pouring of warm medicated oil over the head for a period of 45 minutes, and this is done in a synchronized, slow pattern. Now, we also have other treatments called Shiropichu, Shiro Abhyanga, and Nasya.
Okay.
Shiro Pichu is applying of a cotton pad over the Brahmarandram, and Shiro Abhyanga could involve massaging of the head in different techniques. Now, the last one would be Nasya. Nasya is the installation of ghee in the nostrils, and this has a direct effect over your mind. So, the third modality is Sattva Vajya, and this is quite interesting because this can be considered as Ayurvedic psychotherapy.
Okay.
Now, this mainly involves counseling, and during the interaction, the doctor will make the patient understand his emotions and thoughts and feelings. They will provide corrective measures to steer the mind away from negative thoughts and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And this is done by teaching them about the Dhairya and Atma Vijnanam, which is nothing but, asking them to use their own intelligence to understand themselves and, steering away from all the bad emotions, like I told you, certain dhala and vegas, and also this thing called prajna parada. Now, prajna parada could be understood as something that is unwholesome or not right for you, but you still indulge in it. And that
Right.
could also lead to certain effects. So this concept of sattva vajaya, it goes hand in hand with the other two modalities. Treatment is not complete with, just one of them. All three have to go in hand to bring about a difference. And what this does, it brings the gunas and the doshas into a state of balance. It takes it back to a state of normalcy.
So for the Shirodhara and Shodhana procedures, we have to visit an Ayurvedic doctor. We can't do it at home, yeah?
Yes. Like I told you, it is conducted by a physician and a therapist, and they monitor you throughout the procedure. So it's very essential that you go to a clinic or a hospital to take any of these treatments.
Also, doctor, from a lifestyle angle, what are ways in which we can tackle health anxiety? What are the changes in lifestyle that one can bring about to tackle health anxiety?
Well, in terms of Ayurveda, you should direct the energy of Rajas and Tamas into movement. So it's good to engage your mind and your body. When I talk about engaging your mind, maintain a journal, write down what you feel along with positive reaffirmations. It's good to challenge your thoughts, to bring a better understanding about yourself.
Yeah.
And when I talk about engaging your body, it's good to have some sort of physical activity every day. So, making sure Vyayama is a part of your life is important. It could be a simple walk, or you could play tennis, or you could jog, but you need to have some sort of activity. Also, it's good to have a routine and to try to stick to it. So, if you have something to follow every day, it'll keep you occupied and prevent you from having, unnecessary thoughts.
All right. So the idea is to increase the sattvic guna with all these activities.
That's true. But there is something else that is, essential to develop sattva guna. So, sattva guna is something that is cultivated, by having introspection, by contemplating, by being serene. So you need to be, what do you say, compassionate enough, or you need to have this clear consciousness and you need to have a lot of gratitude. So it's good to spend time for some self reflection. It's good to be with the nature, to introspect, because all these positive emotions are what you need to cultivate. Also, it's very, very good to start meditating. Now, people with anxiety might find it difficult to focus. So there's no pressure. They can start with 2 minutes and they can slowly move on to 4 minutes or 5 minutes, and they can gradually increase. And pranayama and yogasanas are also very helpful to balance the rajas and tamas and increase sattva.
Okay. So could you tell us which type of pranayama helps in reducing anxiety?
So when we talk about pranayama, it means control of the prana or the breath. So this involves different type of patterns in which you inhale and exhale. Now, there are different kinds of pranayama, and the ones most effective in stress or anxiety could be Brahmari or Chandra Anulomana. Now, when I tell you to practice pranayama, you should understand that you should learn from a practitioner and then start following it.
Okay.
Because there are few conditions in which pranayama is not advised. For example, when you have some respiratory illness or increased blood pressure, it's good to know what pranayama you're not supposed to do, and so it's always good to learn from a practitioner, because they will teach you when to do it, how to do it, and for how long to do it. You should know
Okay.
all of that before you start. And if you have any underlying medical conditions, it's always best you consult an Ayurvedic doctor.
So thank you so much, doctor, for sharing this valuable information with us. Health anxiety has to be understood as a state of mind. And with the pandemic, we're all prone to this condition. I mean, the pandemic and the lockdown could extend for let's say maybe 6 months or more than that. And this could actually affect all our behavior and our lifestyle and everything. So before the quality of your life goes for a toss, if you feel like your condition is getting worse, please consult a doctor. Please take care of your health. Everyone stay inside and take care. And thank you so much for listening to us. And please follow Swaru. Have a great day, everyone.